Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie's Cards here for Isabel Cristina Designs today, and I'm so excited to be bringing you this cute little thank you card featuring the gorgeous new Flower Bellas stamp set along with the Magical Forest Digistamp set. These are just packed full with amazing little images. So the toadstool house that I've used here has come from the Magical Forest stamp set, and the little fairy and the little caterpillar have come from the Flower Bellas Digistamp set. There are tons of images in both of these sets, and they are just perfect for creating scene cards, and just they're magical. They really are. You need to go and check them out. I've left a link down below to Isabel Cristina's Etsy shop. Please do go and have a look because these are just adorable. You cannot miss your chance to get hold of these. So I printed mine out on the Easy Print page, as I always do, which just prints out one of each, or actually more than multiples of each image, perfectly sized for an A2 card or any kind of slimline card as well. So you can just print it off. It's so easy to do. I'm not very technologically minded, but I can do it and it works great. So what I'm doing now is I've just taken a piece of Bristol smooth cardstock, which I've cut down with my Heavy Doodle mini scalloped rectangle die, and I'm using the Lawn Fawn Grassy stencil to create a little bit of a background there of grass. I've splattered it with some water. I used some Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide ink. I splattered it with water, and now I'm going to bring out some Lucky Clover Distress Oxide ink here, and I'm going to add some more splatter detail with that one as well. So just spraying it with some water, picking it up with a paintbrush and tapping it all over my grassy area. I've obviously left that stencil in place so that I don't get any dots up into the sky part, which I'm going to be creating shortly. So once that is done, I'm going to lift up the stencil. I'm going to move my panel off to the side to let it dry. And then I'm actually going to do something that I'm a little bit uncomfortable with and I haven't done it very often. I'm going to be doing some emboss resist technique with my sentiment. So I've pulled out this Heavy Doodle Absolutely Awesome stamp set here, which has got these gorgeous little sentiments in it. It's got this nice fairy script, which you can die cut if you've got the coordinating dies. I'm just going to stamp mine directly onto the card base here. So I've placed my images down so I know where I want them, and I'm going to figure out my placement of my sentiment, pick it up with my the door of my stamping tool, and I'm going to move my little images out of the way, and then I'm going to stamp this with some embossing ink. So I have some Versamark embossing ink. I'm just making sure that the placement is right and everything is lined up nicely. And then I'm going to get rid of those little images for the time being, set them off to the side, pull out my powder bag, prep my cardstock there to make sure that my embossing ink only sticks to the areas I want it to for the sentiment. Use my Versamark ink and stamp that down onto that right hand top corner of my card panel there, and then I'm going to use some white embossing powder here to sprinkle over the top. Now I did it this way around because I didn't want to put white heat embossing powder over some over Distress Oxide ink, which I'm going to use in the background, because I thought that the ink can actually stay wet for a little while, and I was worried that my sentiment would or that the embossing powder would kind of go everywhere. So I thought I'd do it this way around. So it's like an embossing resist technique. I think that's what they call it, where you stamp and heat emboss your sentiment first and then go over the top with some Distress Oxide ink. It always makes me a little bit nervous, I'll be honest, because I'm kind of just worried that the sentiment's not going to work out and I'm going to make a bit of a mess of it, or that the distress ink isn't going to wipe up from the card, from the embossed piece on the card. But it works fine. I don't know why I get so nervous about doing this technique. It's absolutely fine. Be a bit braver than me, but it's nice to try different techniques. So I'm using some Salty Ocean Distress Oxide ink here, which is a nice bright blue, and I just thought it worked really nicely with the bright bold colors of my card today. And you can already see that the sentiment is standing out. I need to go back in eventually and buff it off with a paper towel, but I'm just going to just keep going along with my clouds here. So I'm using the Lawn Fawn cloud stencil to create my sky in the background here. I've left that grassy stencil at the bottom there to cover up the grass so that I can ink blend a little bit of ink onto the bottom as well, so it doesn't leave that stark white line at the bottom. And once that is done, I'm going to do a little bit more splattering. So I'm going to pull my stencil back out again and put it in place on top of that grass once I figure out which way around it goes. And I'm going to do a little bit of splatter detail on here as well. So grabbing just some water first of all, I'll splatter that all over, pick it up with a bit of a paper towel, and then I will use a darker coloured blue ink. So I'm going to use some chipped sapphire to create some splatters in the background. Now, truth be told, you're not going to see a great deal of this background because a lot of it is going to be covered by that big toadstool house. But I just wanted to create a little bit of interest in the background, and I know it's there, even if nobody else does. So here's my chipped sapphire, squirting it with a little bit of water, and I'll splatter that all over. I just wanted some darker and lighter spots all over it. This one is probably a little bit dark, but I didn't have anything in between, so I figured this worked fine. And actually it looks quite nice in the end. So removing that stencil, I'll leave that to dry, and then I'll need to buff off that embossed sentiment with a clean paper towel. So I'm doing that now, and it does come up really nicely. I don't know why I was so worried and nervous about it. It's not a technique that I've used very often, and I think a couple of times I've tried it and it really didn't work for me. So I'm very glad it kind of came together today. So here are my beautiful images. I just love these. I've decided to go with kind of like a red toadstool and a red little fairy dress there to make everything match. And I just thought it stood out really nicely against that blue and green background. And of course, my little green caterpillar down there. So my sentiment reads, "Thank you very much," which I just thought was a really nice little sentiment to use on this card. And I'm going to just plop my images down here. I'm using some liquid glue on this big toadstool house. It is ginormous, and you could do so much with this. And obviously you can resize the images. As I say, I have printed mine off with the easy print page, so they come out on one sheet, and there's tons of images. And I think they're perfectly sized for a card, so I don't have to mess around with them, which is always good because I really don't know what I'm doing with technology. So I just find that the easiest way, and like I say, they're just perfect. For my little fairy and my little caterpillar, I'm going to be popping them up onto some foam squares just to give them a little bit of height and kind of make them look like they're standing forward of that toadstool house there. So I'm just making sure that I place them down in the correct position so that I have enough room to put my little caterpillar down there. And this guy is just adorable. But there are a few other little bugs and critters in this Flower Bellas stamp set. So there are some bees, which are absolutely adorable. There's some butterflies and a little snail as well, along with a bunch of different fairies in different poses. The magical forest has these gorgeous, gorgeous toadstools and groups of toadstools and flowers together, and a little bench for the fairies to sit on. I honestly, please go and check it out on Isabel Cristina's Etsy shop. You will not be disappointed. I guarantee you'll want to snap these up. And the great thing about DigiStamps is instant gratification. You can get crafting straight away because you can download them immediately and they're all ready to use. So there it is. My little card is finished, all done and ready to give to somebody to say thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to my channel. I would love to see you come back here again. And please feel free to leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Take care.